On they dumb ass. Yeah, a block on they dumb ass, nigga. A Glock on they dumb ass. Broke ass, nigga. Got these don't want no smoke, nigga. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. A Glock on they dumb.
Good morning and welcome back to Talking Racine. We have George Myers to my left.
Morning.
Mr. Jim Spodek to my right.
Morning.
And Dr. Ken Jorgen. And we're going to start off talking about a program here in Racine which has become popular in a lot of communities, and it addresses a situation that quite honestly needed to be addressed, and that is the fact that a lot of times people are arrested for relatively petty offenses and they're put in jail and they're unable to bail themselves out. And as a result, sometimes people lose their job, they might lose their car, they might lose their apartment. I mean, all kinds of bad things can happen when a wage earner is put in jail. So
particularly if they're not really a danger to society. They've done something wrong.
Yeah.
They need to be punished, but they're not. In the meantime, they're not going to be, burning things up or whatever. They're not a danger to society.
Well, I've heard of situations where somebody will be late with their child support payments or something like that. There you go. Which is, it's not good to do that, but it's not a criminal activity that really endangers the community, and a guy can end up in jail or a gal for one of these petty offenses and not be able to get out, and like I said, the consequences are bad. So Racine has got an organization here, and what is the name of it?
It's the Joshua Glover bailout program.
So it's named after Joshua Glover,
right? Something like that. Yeah, and it's not really Racine based. I think it's bigger, but it's used in Racine.
Well, there's a little bit of stink going on. It's all over Facebook right now, because one of the county board supervisors, Nick Demske specifically, is apparently the head of this organization, which good for him. It's great that he's involved in the community on that level, and you kind of wonder, why is a county board supervisor at the head of that? But that's neither here nor there. Now, recently, he participated in the bailout of a young gentleman here in Racine, and the sheriff got a little bit upset about it, and he's calling for Nick Demske's resignation from the county board. Well, the sheriff is upset because this young man has apparently got several counts of armed robbery against him and crimes committed with guns, and in fact was in jail for having broken into cars and stolen some guns, one of which turned out to be the sheriff's department.
The sheriff's SWAT member, I think.
Ended up stealing guns from a sheriff's car. So the sheriff is calling for Nick Demske to get tossed off of the board because he got involved in this situation, and we personally think that this is not strictly what that was intended for, what those funds are best utilized for. At least that's my take on it. And George, I know you've got an opinion on it. Do you?
I got an opinion on it. Can we look at that? If we got that video, I'd like to get that video, and then
you've got a video of the guy who was bailed out.
Correct. All right, I'm going to play that and we'll come back.
Glock on they dumb ass. Yeah, a Glock on they dumb ass, nigga. A Glock on they dumb ass. Broke ass, nigga. Got these don't want no smoke, nigga. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. A Glock on they dumb ass. Yeah, a Glock on they dumb ass, nigga. A Glock on they dumb ass. Broke ass, nigga. Got these don't want no smoke, nigga.
To address your question, I got first introduced to this through a libertarian magazine called Racine magazine, and I thought it was a pretty good idea. The problem was, you have two people, let's say, same crime, same age, whatever it is. One of them gets out because he's got bail, and the other stays in jail because he doesn't have bail. And the problem is that why should someone sit in jail just because he hadn't got enough money? So this sounded like, I came forward thinking, this sounds like a great plan. This is a way to do some reform in the courts, is people shouldn't sit in jail just because they haven't got bail. But if there's something beside it, like we just saw in this video, that isn't just because of money, maybe he needs to sit there a little longer and wait for his day in court.
Well, that was my impression.
Yeah.
I don't know the young man, but from what I've seen of him, I think he's made some bad choices.
Yeah.
And the amount of money was like $10,000.
$10,000. Yep.
I would think that's a pretty good dent in whatever kind of funds are available. Like I told you guys way back in the 60s, I was involved with a group that was doing something very similar, where we were, well, we'd have fundraisers and so on and so forth. We had a raffle. We tried to raise some money for people who were in jail that really probably didn't deserve to be there, and they could be helped out a little bit, and it would help them on their journey through the judicial system. Of course, we were way underfunded. We bailed a couple of people out, and that was it. We were broke.
Yeah.
But $10,000.
That's a lot of dough.
That's a lot.
And one
money.
of his argument was, this is community money, and I highly doubt it was Racine's money. It's an organization, I think the Freedom Fund out of Milwaukee, and there's some other connections. So this is bigger than Racine, and Nick is involved in it in a degree of apparently the director of it. And they've got pictures of Nick walking into the jail or the paying the bail, and then of course this fellow was left out. And of course, I mean, you have to, I don't always agree with the sheriff and certain law enforcement on everything, but on this one, I got to kind of agree with him on that. I mean, he is this kid. Not only is he a danger to the community, I think he's actually staying in jail would be a good thing for this guy, because he could be a danger by doing something stupid and making more of a serious issues for himself. And
when you look at his rap sheet, and
yeah.
it gets pretty obvious. Now, which brings up the question: what are the parameters for using this money? Is Demske? I mean, is it just Nick? Whatever he decides, does he just arbitrarily do it, or was he put there because pressure from this other group that we're presuming is there? They thought, well, here's a very pliable person. If we want to get somebody out for whatever our purpose is,
give Nick the money. Just call him up and he'll get down there.
Call Nick, he's the man.
Yeah.
But I really stupid.
Well, and we saw what happens in a really extreme case like what happened in Waukesha.
Yeah.
There was somebody that was let out on very low bond, had no business doing it, and many people died because of it, particularly children. So it's like somehow we've got to put some sense into this bail situation and make a better decision about who we're going to use this money for. I agree. If it's someone like you mentioned, child support or something like that, who's somebody who's just behind in payments, he's not a hazard to society, he's not going to go out and kill people or do anything really weird. Right. He's just going to go back to work. All right. Come up with his bond money. There's no sense of making him sit there.
There's addictions. There's addictions. Not only alcohol and drugs and stuff, and they get picked up and put in jail. And obviously, they got a job. Maybe they got a family. And you go to jail and you're sitting there for a month. You got big problems.
Well, we knew somebody was kind of like that.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh yeah. And I had somebody tell me, why wouldn't they bail me out when I was in jail? I was. I sat there. Yeah. So it's
a case that we're all familiar with, and I agree. He was somebody that should have benefited from this. I don't know if it was around when he was.
I don't think
in jail.
So.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But someone like that, what we're saying is he's a working guy, but he got wound up in some stuff, and he sat in jail for several months until his girlfriend could bail him out. So there's a good reason for something like this. It just needs to be used properly. Nick Demske is. I'm a little concerned about it. He's a county supervisor. He's supposed to be like a leader in the community. These are supposed to be people that are kind of setting good examples of how you make good decisions and how you proceed forward with plans to make a community better. And I think there's something lacking there with Mr. Demske.
Yeah, there's something lacking with
my
own
only thought. Yeah.
I mean, it strikes me that this kid is like proud of his criminality.
Yeah.
And he needs to be somewhere where he can have a good conversation with somebody. And I'm not implying anything, unsavory there. He needs to sit down and have a good conversation with somebody about what life is all about, because he's on a path that is going absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
And to bail him out, I mean, I can see where the community's upset, and they are upset, and I can see where the sheriff's asking for the resignation of this, and this has hit some major news organizations in the state.
Do you think he should be removed from office for this, or do you think
I don't know
more
if
of it just a show?
Well,
I'm not fine when it came.
No, honestly, Well,
Is it stupid enough to say, step down from your county supervisor seat?
well, I think if that's the case, then I think half of
Then
them
you got to get rid of
I
everybody.
got to get rid
All
of
right,
them.
so this is more of a show. It's more of a saying. It's more of a spanking
Yeah.
than it is actually a
Will Nick
execution.
wise up? Maybe it's something that he can take back and say, hey, but he came out and said, oh, this is a political maneuver by the sheriff and the rest. My thoughts would be, all right, I should have reevaluated the situation. I mean, did he even know? Maybe he didn't even know what this kid was what his history was. I don't know that. But I would think at some point you got to say, when everybody says, hey, bad move, you maybe
It would be helpful if he said, I made a mistake and I'm going to review
We're gonna look at
my
our policies.
parameters for the
Right.
use of these funds.
Right.
Because you could come up with some good parameters. The person should have
Right.
a job or he should be such and such or
Right.
whatever.
Right. How many offenses
you
are we looking at?
Is what he was going to do a danger to the society?
Right.
Or what he was arrested for, stopping. So at least Nick could do that.
Well, if talking Racine said it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
If all of us three agree, that's a rare
out. Not just half of it.
But yeah, I don't think that's heading in a good direction.
No.
I really don't.
And I think wake up a little bit. And,
How about this Lakeview Park? Is that the next one we have to talk
Lakeview
about?
Park, yes.
I think that's a real interesting one. I mean, I have some association with it. I was a member of the old folks thing where that was our house.
right, the old senior center.
Yeah, the senior
Yep.
center, and it was.
Did
an
you carry
interesting
guns
place.
to the Domino's tournaments?
No, but it was. I was never really impressed with it. It wasn't like that grandiose of a place. I'm not quite sure why it cost so much to tear down. But at the same time, I was also a soccer coach, and we had practices right there. So it had several uses that I had as an interesting public place. And I hate to see it just. I just don't kind of like.
I don't understand
high rise
the
going there and
economics
take,
of it.
take all that. Well, yeah, you really bring the economics of it. There are two viewpoints of that, Doc, and I know some people that would specifically say this is a great place to put a high rise because you can get it done there and we will get huge amounts of taxes on it. And that sounds like good economic, except when you look at where the taxes are going and what's getting done with, then you say, what good does that do? Why would we put up something there that just puts more money into a sinkhole over at City Hall? I mean, probably the first thing would happen would Corey Mason will put in 5
More
new
staff.
people. Yeah, more staff.
And it's already a TID district. I believe that's a TID district over there now, isn't it?
We got the Lakeview coordinator on staff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You make sure the bathrooms are clean. But
We have the zoo watcher.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of property, but it's a park and it should remain a park.
You know what?
I
And it's
think
next
so.
to the zoo. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, there's to come spill out. I don't know what's all for, but I'm sure the people in that community like it. And I do see activities down there, and you got the tennis courts, and there are some stuff that goes on there, and it's right by the beach.
It's a good place for a park just off the lake.
Yeah, why don't we just leave it alone?
They got close to $1 million.
They can take that building out easy.
Oh yeah.
Throw up another building. It doesn't have to be grandiose. So make sure there's bathrooms and maybe showers if you're at the beach or whatever. I mean, it can be done and done nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not way over. Matter of fact, I'm sure for $1 million you could do some nice things. But if you want to see the future of Lakeview Park, go to Machinery Row, down there by the river. Go to Point Blue, down by the lake. It's just a few blocks from Lakeview.
That's about it. That's about it. Yeah.
I'll go to the Porter's project, which was supposed to be so great. I mean, I get concerned anytime the city starts talking about these great projects that are going to really transform the community. What about the luxury hotel that was going to go into the old
Zahn's building?
Zahn's building?
Yeah.
Where's that? I mean, it's just one thing after another.
thing
And now
about
they want to
Racine-
take a park.
I know. Now they
turn
want
it
to take
into
a park.
what?
I mean, you drive around, just take a ride over by Machine Your Own. Look at that land over there. I mean, it's just desolate, and it's just such an embarrassment. And well, what's the future of Lakeview? We're going to get started, rip all the grass out, tear it up, leave it gravel,
Yeah.
and then oh,
I don't want to get cynical, but it looks like another good place to put some of those intergovernmental funds, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do a study.
But one of the things that,
They'll
you
end
know,
up spending $2 million to clear that building off is what
Yeah.
they'll do, and then it'll be vacant.
you know,
Little
last week we
cyclone
talked
fence around.
about, you know, how there was a community meeting and it got a little rambunctious. Well, now the next meeting is going to be on Zoom. You know, they're not
Oh,
going,
none of this
they're not going
face-to-face
face-to-face
stuff.
No, they're not going
We're gonna do
face-to-face with the
Zoom.
community.
Keep the torches and the pitchforks out of City Hall.
Right. So they're hosted by Zoom. They're going to the Department of City Development and developers. Hear the word. Will be hosted via Zoom by Payne and Fraser consultants on December 15th at 6 p.m. and they'll send you a Zoom link. So
Why don't you put the link up so
yeah, I'll see,
anybody that wants to
well,
can go and
yeah. Well,
sign up
actually, they
there.
haven't given it back yet, Doc. It's not here. They're going to do it out 3 days before, or 1
Oh,
week.
no. But you can participate by visiting www.pnd
Yeah, but then you-
consultants, and you get signed
Right, I'll
up
put that,
to
get a link.
yeah.
Get a link.
Then they'll contact
Here's
you.
the thing: how many? A lot of people are not comfortable or capable of going on Zoom, so it really does leave them out. It's a terrible way to run a city, because COVID? What the heck? I went to a restaurant today in downtown Racine, and there wasn't a mask in the place, so you can't go to City Hall and sit in City Hall and put a mask on these persons that are going to put the presentation on. I mean, it's just, this is a typical example of hiding. And this is
It
what
really
you're doing.
is. It keeps
Yeah.
distance between you and the people that have a complaint. It
Yeah.
puts a whole bunch of electrons in space. And,
Yeah,
where-
exactly,
No,
yeah.
none of this. We're in the same room, and
No.
I have to listen to you too closely.
We don't know that anybody's
Click
going to
those things.
complain. I mean, it could be that a lot of people will be enthusiastic about this.
Yeah, well, I don't
I
think that's-
kind of doubt it, but
yeah.
I mean, it's possible. I used to get in arguments with a friend of mine, and when he got down to the point of saying, "Well, it's possible, isn't it?" then I knew the argument was over.
Anything's
And that was it.
possible. That's
Right.
right. Well,
Yeah,
So
well,
much for that. We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep an eye on Mr. Demske, and we'll keep an eye on the election process,
voting.
voting, which is more and more developments coming out.
Okay, I want to.
You
I
got that little
got a
video?
video. Yeah, I'll play this video, and then now this is from the election and campaign committee hearing that just happened within this last week, and it was we had brought on this before. Mike Gableman, who is a former justice, who is heading up an investigation on voter irregularities, and he's going to bring up where. It's a rehash of a lot of stuff we talked about. Facebook came into Racine. Corey Mason was the head of the whole Facebook coordination of the 5 cities in Wisconsin that we had talked about a number of times. And he kind of went through all that again. But he did bring up a couple things that I thought were kind of interesting. He brings up a book, and I'll play it now. And then after that is the author of this book, and he explains it, and maybe we'll stop it along the way and we can
Well,
talk about it.
the book was, what was it? How to Defeat Donald Trump in 2020?
Something like that, yeah, I think it
And he
was.
talked like it was this grand conspiracy that nobody should talk. Well, they talk about each other like that all the time.
Yeah, no, I get
You
it.
know?
I get it. But there are some things that were connected to it, and I thought, well, there's some
Yeah,
interesting
there's-
things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll go through. You
Yeah,
guys stop.
but I'd like to.
All right.
I'd like to see it again. Yeah.
This investigation is not concluded, and so therefore I make no findings. I can make no findings beyond a reasonable doubt. However, what is looking like what probably happened here is the implementation of a plan that was articulated very well and very succinctly in this book by David Plouffe, A Citizen's Guide to Beating Donald Trump. In it, David Plouffe, who is the former political director for former President Obama and is currently an employee of the Zuckerbergs, He wrote in the summer of 2019, Mr. Pluff tells us that it is likely that in the 2020 election, Wisconsin will become a political war zone. A political war zone. He writes as follows, the contest for the presidency may come down to a block-by-block street fight in Detroit, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee.
Okay, so that was Gableman at the Campaign and Election Committee meeting. Now, what we're going to hear now is David Pluff talking. This is prior to the 2020 presidential election.
And here's just come on. I understand Doc's viewpoint of it. Another book, about conspiracy theory, something like that. But it's not quite like that. If this was somebody writing about David Pluff and what he did and that I agree with you, Doc. But this was a book written by David Pluff telling you what he is going to do and what he did. So this is not just a conspiracy theory, and that's why the judge is using it, not as a storybook of a report or something. It's the person himself explaining what he did and what he's going to create in the future, and what he did in the future, which was the 2020 election, because he had already set out how he was going to deal with it. So I'd just like to put that little perspective on that book. It's not just a book about something. It's a book written by the person about what he did and what his plans are.
Yeah.
Some of the affiliated groups are going to be hiring thousands of people. So if you have, if you're a designer, if you're a press person, if you're a controller, you've got HR experience. Like, seriously, think about doing it. Mm-hmm. Particularly if it's Biden, it's right up the road in Philly. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example of this. So Mike Bloomberg, he did win American Samoa, so he's got that. But, he built an amazing campaign machine, right? Hired thousands of people. And they had this company called Hawkfish, which did all the advertising. You probably saw some of the TV, but it was very innovative on the digital space. And it was led by the former chief marketing officer of Facebook. Okay. And they're going to be helpful, I think, in the effort, probably as an independent expenditure. We need them to be.
Okay. I mean, my thoughts on this. He worked for the Obama administration, and I think he was either running the campaign, what he did. I mean, the guy is very, very good at what he does.
I think he did. I think he ran the media aspect of
Obama's
campaign.
But now he's working for Facebook, and I think that's the thing that kind of caught me. Instead of working for, let's just say, Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders,
going to another campaign,
he went to Facebook. Or Facebook hired him.
A little different approach to going to a campaign.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of like, okay, click, okay, why? I mean,
and then Facebook comes to Racine,
right,
as just a helpful organization. We're going to help you deal with the election and during a pandemic.
Right. Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. The problem is that we've identified is that these private corporations are going in where they're offering to and in fact taking over the management of elections, and that's just a slippery slope.
Really bad,
and that should not be allowed.
Well, here, I'm just gonna put up on the screen the email that came to Tara, our clerk, and in the city of Racine, and then it would have been Michael Spitzer Rubenstein, and there was an Artie Steinberg. Now, I don't know if that's who he's referring to in this, a former contracted employee of Facebook that put this app together, and they talk about that app. But I'm just going to throw up on the screen this email. So I just want to kind of touch on one thing. It says on there, it speaks of Arnie Steinberg from U.S. Digital Response. And so kind of looked up U.S. Digital Response. David Pluff said there are thousands of employees on Bloomberg. Well, I think there's thousands of employees on both sides, Republicans, Democrat, that they hire to go out on these field work and they register voters or whatever. In this particular, there was an app made in the city of Racine, and it shows on that email, and it would be one of these participating groups would sign in, and then it would they would put their name in, and then they would get a hold of an individual to try to either register to vote, and then take that information, put it in, and then they would. The thing that got me was they would have a sign pad. So that individual, you take the information, where do you live, what's your email, and have you been registered before? They would be able to check. He would sign like you would at a credit card, and then they would check that information. Now, I guess what it comes to, once I looked up a digital response, that group, which was connected to this app, maybe not perform that app, I don't know if they did that app, but what I found was they will completely run an election. They will start from...
That's their offer.
And it's free of charge. So if you want to look
a private company going to run an election.
U.S. Digital Response. And they will do down to poll workers, to creating ballots, actually curing ballots, custom applications for the field. I mean, they do it all.
Yeah.
Now, in Wisconsin, that happens to be against the law right now. The way the law is expressed is only the county clerks and the city clerks can run elections.
But I'll tell you,
that's
George,
our fortunate thing. But we saw, that's been the law, but we saw in this last election, a private company came in anyway, and in certain parts of the state ran the election.
This is as bad as the voting machines, the electronic voting machines, the touchscreen voting machines.
Yeah.
So what it indicates to me is that there's a trend in these elections that is really getting out of hand.
Yeah, that's the whole idea about putting this out there.
And it's happening on both sides. The Democrats and Republicans are both engaged in this kind of chicanery, and what it does is it makes it impossible for anybody who's not a Republican or a Democrat to participate in these elections. And there's an awful lot of power that goes along with being in charge of one of these national parties.
Yep.
Awful lot of power.
Well,
we see that in the quality of candidates that we get in a lot of these elections, which we just don't get people that are worth voting for a lot of times.
What we get is the party puts that person up there. Now, these are not actually, I truly don't believe that they're worthy of the position that they're in, but the party puts them in that position.
Right.
And, I've listened to so many different videos and discussions, and even this David Pluff talks about, don't worry about the money. We got plenty of money. So they've got the money. Some independent candidate or a libertarian, they struggle to get that money. And they're up against this huge wall of money with the Republicans and the Democrats. And to come in now and say, hey, we're going to have the elections streamlined. Well, streamlined for who?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about a
Exactly.
thing. And that's a very dangerous road to go down. Anytime money controls as much as money is getting to control in our elections, you got problems. You got real problems.
And you talked about the fallacy of voting by touching things on a screen. This takes it a step further in that you are actually now registering to vote on a screen, and then subsequently to that, then you get to vote. Not on a screen. You can do it with distance there. Just online.
George, you don't need a body anymore.
There's no presence. There's no watching. There's no body that comes in front of you and says, "I am the person that's voting." It's all,
there is somebody
electronic.
watching, they have to be witnessed. But who's doing the witnessing?
That's right.
Well, there's so many areas that it could be.
We need to get away from that. We need to get back to in-person voting. We talked about that. In person, on paper, not online. Then hand count it, and do it in one day. This 3 weeks just opens up all kinds of problems and all kinds of opportunity to corrupt the voting system.
I don't think either side is
Clean?
No, and I'll tell you where I think they're headed is completely. I think what they're trying to do is say, okay, this mail-in ballots are the way to go, and one step beyond mail-in ballot is to just vote on your phone, so it becomes all electronic. So who's going to control all of that?
And there it is, Jim. Because ultimately, what's going to happen? We're going to become. It's going to use a fancy word here, but it's being thrown around more and more. Will become an oligarchy. An oligarchy is a system of government where a few people at the top, the chosen few, are running the government, and that's what's going to happen.
Well, if we're not already there, we're dangerously close.
That's exactly right.
I would argue that we're pretty much already there.
Well, some are already calling this an oligarchy. Yeah, we've lost being. We're no longer a republic. We're an oligarchy. And that's what some people are saying already. But the point is this takes us there just for certain, because once the voting is all done electronically, and it's so easily controlled, and this oligarchy will simply decide who votes. You know, it's the old Stalin thing. It's not the people that vote that count; it's the people that count the votes. And when you get to this takes you right there just so smoothly and nicely. That
it's very comfortable.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, particularly for the people at the top.
Well, like I say, it's not where David Plouffe, which I mean to tell you, I've watched 2 or 3 of his speech. The guy is good, very good. I mean, he understands campaigning. He understands how
just
to
listen to him. He's the kind of guy that you want. You know, when you're trying to take over something, a person or a company or whatever it is. He's the kind of guy.
He's the marketing guy. Absolutely,
he comes across very smoothly, very very sincerely.
And it came from you go back. We're all able to go back as far as the '60s, where you saw the John Kennedy and the Richard Nixon, and one was sweating. One looked like Hollywood.
Well, yeah, it was the first televised debates.
Well, yeah, that's when the people doing makeup became important to presidential elections. And
so now we're actually at this point, I think at least, where you're going to start seeing this digital world, and they want to usher it right in, and you're going to be just picking your candidate from a box on your cell phone.
Well, I'll tell you, they've already got everybody convinced that you're either a Democrat or you're a Republican.
Exactly.
They've got the thing bifurcated, and there's so much money that's poured into both of those camps that there's nobody else could play the game. So, and there are, I think, I'm convinced, Racine is considered to be a Democratic town.
Right.
But what does that mean? If you want to win a race here, you declare you're a Democrat.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there are people here who claim to be Democrats who don't have anything to do with the Democratic Party or the principles. They're just, and you hear the term rhino all the time now, Republican in name only. So you've got these 2 camps that control everything. Everything else is shut out, and it's all empowered by this big
oligarchy.
money.
That's
big
right.
Money.
It's all
one person described it as kind of it's like their own little economy up there. We have our big economy down here, but up there is a very high level economic activity where they're trading a lot of money, and there's a lot of people getting very rich up in that little
and living a good lifestyle. I mean, all of these conferences that they go to. And we talked earlier about this conference that's coming up. There was like $6,000 a ticket to get in.
Yeah.
$6,000.
Well,
you think that the boiled shrimp are good there? I bet they got
Are you going
nice,
to it, Doc? Jim?
No,
I'm not making it.
I could maybe send
my
them a down
$6,000
payment.
ticket.
But I mean, that's the thing. Neither
But
one of them.
We know Robin Boss is
hear-
going there, right?
Yeah.
That's how we're getting.
But you don't hear what
But
the
it creates a
Democrats
lifestyle.
talking about.
No, it is.
You don't talk about the Democrats talking about, let's look at this voting and let's get it straightened out. You don't hear a peep out of Democrats.
No.
Republicans, we're going to fix it in 2022. No, you're not going to fix anything.
Yeah.
There's no fixing this because you guys don't want to fix it. I mean, you hear ramblings of different some of these representatives out there. There are some people saying, "Hey, this is wrong," but what a huge uphill fight for that, and you're fighting your own party. It's
If you identify with a party, stop identifying with these parties. I would.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But
Well, anyway, that's our message for today, and we'll be back next week because this is what we do. So thanks for being here.